All right, so this is number 5. I'm calling this one emotions. This one, I'm actually going to be a little vulnerable without actually giving a lot of detail about my personal life. I'm going to tell you a story about my personal life. Anyway, it's called Emotions, and if you can bear with me through the reading, I'm just going to read it and then I'll stop right after, right? So, when it's time to tell you how or what I'm thinking, I'm still not sure if it's right. The right time, that is. When is it a good time to let you know that what we talked about last time has changed? Only if I could see the future, I would know how you were going to react. That would make things simpler. Not knowing what you will say, think, or feel has me trapped behind the untruth. Just enough of the truth not to be a lie. But that's bullshit because a half truth is a whole lie. So why do I feel myself seeking justification for what I think you might question? I am trapped by my leader, not Pinky, but the brain. And it's isolated all the members of my being in an attempt to avoid make you feel some kind of way. Trying to show you the only way we know how to prove the love we confess. I align my actions to coddle your fears. This should be simple because you do it for me, right? Wrong. It's your choice. Yet you expect me to consider the things you do because that is the situation we face together. Look, look, look. At all the other people out in this world that are able to do the thing I ask of you for their meat. To that I say, for sure they have not walked in my shoes to view my value for this thing that I have tranquilized for the idea of us. I am reminded of our limbs. When the veins are compressed and we get that numb feeling, we call that extremity sleep. It's like I sat on a toilet for 3 hours, then stood up and tried to run. It for sure is not your fault that my legs are coming back. But unfortunately, you have to grow or attach legs to a part of your being not meant for them. That or get left. The size, length, and strength of is on you, no pun. This could be fun or painful, likely a little of both. In high school, there was a group of young men. I was not an official member of this group, but fit in when and where I needed to. They had an idea that I related to: camouflage chameleons. Fit in without being noticed to survive an attack when the time is right or when you need to. To this day, there's a tattoo of that reptile on my forearm. I don't remember what point I was trying to make when I started typing this today. Oh, yeah. About not feeling caged by your fear and hurt. The act of fucking someone that is not your mate is technically an impossible statement. Simply because if you were fucking them, they are your mate at that moment. So the act of fucking another without the consent of a person you have entered an agreement with that you will not entertain another human in a vulnerable way, sharing intimacy, that being sexual relations or deep and dark secrets. I don't have a fear of sharing intimacy, but you are wired in a way that stirs up negative emotions to know that you share your intimacy, that who you share your intimacy with can also withstand the intimacy of others. This boils down to jealousy. The act of sharing intimacy is not a crime, nor does it cause physical pain. That's true whether you watched it happen or learned about it 10 years down the line. Yes, there is some risk with sharing intimacy with others, pregnancy, STDs, or someone using your intellectual property for personal gain. I will state again, death is coming. Today, tomorrow, 20 or 60 years from now. What true good is life if you have not lived because you held yourself back to save someone else's emotional feelings? I'll say that again. What true good is life if you have not lived because you held yourself back to save someone else's emotional feelings? There's an influx of information and emotional danger. I don't have a D in emotions, but that does not stop me from having a basic understanding of emotions. There is hoopla about emotional abuse. Okay, I'm going to say the same thing. I'm just going to change the word emotions with a synonym or word with the same meaning. What true good is life if you have not lived because you held yourself back to save someone else's thinking of or thought process? There is an influx of information, of thinking, and danger to the thought process. I don't have a D in thinking or thought process, but that does not stop me from having a basic understanding of thinking and thought process. There is a big hoopla about thinking and thought process abuse. Dictionary.com defines emotion. 1, an affective state of consciousness, awareness of one's existence, in which joy, sorrow, fear, hate, or the like is experienced, as distinguished from cognitive, or pertaining to the act of process of knowing, perceiving, remembering, etc. And ventilation, the act of willing, causing, or resolving states of consciousness, So emotions are the outward expression of how we deal with thoughts. Knowing this will guide our lives to ease the thoughts or emotions of others. Not always knowing what nuggets of information or the order in which it was received in their mindset when they got it and how they perceived it. The only way past the junction in human beings is transparency. MJ said it best with the man in the mirror. It starts with not lying to yourself, then being honest with those in your immediate circle, with hopes that honesty will catch blaze like wildfire. What we think is important, there is no emotional abuse if all we have is truth and honesty to make our decisions on. Step two is remembering that your head region has one mouth, two ears, one brain that controls them both. If you spend all your time talking, you can't be hearing anything. If all you do is hear, you're not sharing. Listening to rebut or argue a point is not listening, but taking a few minutes to understand what is and why the information is being relayed. How to take control of your emotions. Thoughts aren't forced, but they are extremely vulnerable to outside influences. A number of authors have helped me to learn how to deal with ideas that stir up uncomfortable emotions. Book titles like The Power of Now, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. All have common themes. First, how has the actions of others actually impacted us? Meaning, not just an emotional level. In other words, not just how we think it affects us. Rather, has it cost us money, food, or property? Place the value in categories of significance. Consider what you do know, or don't know for that matter. Can or does the unknown change the value system in place? Have you ever caught yourself upset because the person you considered to be a mate is having or have had fun on some level of enjoyment without you? Whether it be a random night at the bar or some form of sexual pleasure, maybe even masturbation. Notice that I try to refrain from saying my or your mate. Subconsciously, to claim people in that manner indicates ownership. This is my blank. They should not or would not do that to me. I even think my nigga is inappropriate. Nigga not being the focus of my unsuitableness. It's my that I have trouble with. To me, that's what the slave owners did. Gave us the opportunity to make claim of property or people. Nigga was a title. Ma made the nigga his. That nigga there is a good friend to me. Equal, that's my nigga. That claim is real. A few months back, I heard a story. A relative that moved away from Jersey came back to visit after a long sabbatical. Excited to come back, but only in town for a short time, linked up with a couple of lifelong friends. Those that have shared different levels of intimacy, bonding the relationships. Friend A and friend B are familiar with each other. Not great friends themselves, but no distinction between them. Something sparked a conversation of, of whose claim to be a better friend. The argument sounded like this: Friend A, you don't understand. That's my nigga. Friend B returns with, whatever, nigga. That's my nigga. We blankety blank blank. This leads to justifying the friendship by regurgitating past accounts in life that trumps the other's validity to claim the better friend status. It's the emotional it's the emotions or thoughts that were etched into existence that makes each of their arguments valid and true, meaning that both hold a value. If the relative was to pass today, both friend A and B will likely be volunteer pallbearers. See, but ego tells me that in the heat of discussion, both friend A and B sought validation, meaning they wanted to know that if A or B were at odds, which would relatives support? An example is if you got a call in the middle of the night around the same time and both were requiring assistance, who would you help first? The mental insurance is that jeopardy. The mental insurance is at jeopardy when a mate feels that your level of intimacy with another might tear down or reduce the chance of responding to them first. All to say, separate your thoughts from the part of your emotions that are unhealthy. Worrying about things that cannot be changed, remembering it, not what happens to you, but how you react to it. Remembering that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it. Many may call me cold hearted for that statement or that state of mind. But if more only gave a fuck when it was their turn, would we be better off? Shout out to Bump from The Wire. Being able to discuss differences in thinking opens us up to new ideas. Hating someone or treating them subpar for thinking differently should be the crime. Choosing what you want to be a part of is key. When what seems to be a small detail are extracted from scenarios, it makes it difficult to make sound decisions. I'll say that again. When what seems to be small details are extracted from scenarios, it makes it difficult to make sound decisions. This is why it's important to be honest. How would the world look next year if every untruth is corrected? Every lie is replaced with fact of matter. I know that is an impossible what if, but what if? All right, so again, this is the end of number 5. Gotta keep it moving. Holla.